Number 10. Technical difficulties. Proving just how terrifying she can be in Ultimate Custom Night and during the Sister Location Custom Night, Ballora, when she appears, will mess with your cameras. She approaches from either one of two halls, but when she does, the cameras become disabled. Apparently Ballora is some kind of tech whiz or emits some kind of frequency or other technological waves of some kind, 5G, that interferes with your cameras. The only time you'll see her in Custom Night is when it's too late and she has already jump scared you. Number 9. Listen carefully. The key to avoiding Ballora's jump scare in Ultimate Custom Night is in attentive listening. What you'll hear in your headphones, this is FNAF after all, sound cues galore, so I'm assuming you will be wearing headphones, is Ballora's music, but you won't be able to see her. You'll want to close the door on the side you hear her music coming from before she can attack. If you succeed, the only way you'll know is with another sound cue, a thud meant to signify her leaving. And you'll obviously know if you fail, cause well, you'll be dead. Number 8. Shocking revelations. In Sister Location, you are of course forced into shocking Ballora in order to get her to perform and make sure she is in operating order so she can once again entertain children during the next day. If you've seen my part 1 of this list or played Sister Location, you'll know what I'm talking about. Something, however, that we have yet to mention is what happens on night 2 when you shock Ballora. Only Ballora's shadowy silhouette can be seen when you illuminate her stage, and you are forced to shock her in order to motivate her into performing. However, when you do so, all you will hear is a garbled, creepy, demonic voice which is emanating from the malfunctioning hand unit. Initially, it doesn't sound like anything is being said intentionally, just a bunch of creepy sounds. However, one Redditor plugged the audio into the audio recording program Audacity to see if they could make sense of it, and discern if the voice was actually saying anything resembling words. Upon increasing the pitch and speed, they did uncover some actual words being said there. To them, they said it sounded like argumentative, standards, elevation, passive, heights. However, what these words actually mean in regards to the bigger picture, or if Scott intended them to be there or be found at all, remains a mystery.
And at 7 moral differences. Now, while William and Mike may look alike, that's the only thing they have in common. Genetics aside, these people aren't related in the slightest. If you think about it, these two are the opposites of each other. One is corrupt and kills as a second nature, and the other is trying to repent, making up for his father's crimes as well as his own wrongdoings. We don't know why William started killing, it's all just speculation, but we know why Mike began hunting down the spirits of the children and started setting them free, to make up for his father's mistakes and to let his brother have the peace he deserves. The two characters juxtapose each other, and this is even more reinforced when you remember that they did look exactly alike, so much so that the animatronics actively tried to enact revenge on Mike, thinking that he's William. Even though they look identical, they are on the opposite sides of the spectrum of human decency. And while yes, Mike started off bullying his younger brother, once he got his brother killed, that's when he found his way. It's sad, but at least they can rest now.
Number 6. Ballora's stage. One of the creepiest parts of the introduction to the location and game mechanics in Sister Location is when you're examining the stages. The first stage you are forced to illuminate is Ballora's. The fact that her light and the other stage's lights aren't just always on makes the whole thing even more unsettling. That anxiety that you feel building the first time you go to turn on that light, and then the crazy thing is how muddy the lighting or thickness of the windows seems, making the stage still appear as though it were being viewed through a vignette. Even when Ballora and her mini-Renas appear after their administered shock, the whole scene still appears disturbing. Number 5. Frankenstein connection. In Special Delivery, it's confirmed that Mangle is basically a hybrid animatronic created from multiple parts of other models mashed together. "I'm now so many pieces of people, all making me the fox I am today," is one of the lines you can hear Mangle say in Special Delivery. Basically, they're like a Frankenstein animatronic. Sort of like Ennard, I guess. And perhaps also like Ennard internally as well. Not only that, but because of the fact that Mangle is made up of multiple bits sort of mashed together, they tend to have pieces fall off of them every now and then, which is also kind of a disturbing thought. So I guess you could just pick those back up and assemble them for them. There you go, Mangle, I'll just put you back together again. Number 4. Travel by tracks. One of these specific requirements, of course, is that she needs to have tracks to dance on. Ballora actually glides around on tracks in her studio, which is how she manages to spin and perform. Without her tracks, Ballora can't even stand, and instead crawls around disturbingly on all fours. I'm not sure how exactly she would perform without said tracks, or if it's even possible. Though fortunately, or unfortunately, her super creepy mini arenas don't seem to need tracks in order to move and prance around like Ballora does. Yay?
And at 3, easy access. In the last part, I complained about how stupid the design is for the Funtime animatronics, and people were saying that they were opening for easy maintenance. But that got me thinking. It was fairly easy in the FNAF VR game, so why the need to make it easier? No, the ability to open their face is not to be able to maintain them or repair them, but it's to get the children out. These animatronics were designed to capture kids. We know this based on the child we can see in the wireframe of Funtime Freddy and baby scooping Elizabeth Afton. So since the animatronics were easy to repair in the first place, the only reason you would need a hole this wide, giggity, would be to extract a child that is inside the containment chamber, and have enough room to fit a child into the containment chamber when you're capturing them in the first place. Either way, still a stupid design until you think about it in a more deranged child killer way. Like I said, we are all deranged child killers in our own way. Me, for example, I had a lot of fun playing that FNAF Purple Guy Simulator game. I should go back to that.
Number 2, Mrs. Afton? While some theorize that Ballora is like the big sister to Circus Baby, others believe that the two have an even closer relationship. They believe that Ballora is actually Circus Baby's mom, or rather that the spirit within Ballora, which gives her consciousness and awareness, belongs to William Afton's wife and Elizabeth Afton's mother, Mrs. Afton, sometimes referred to as Clara Afton, given the name by fans after the character Clara, from the soap opera scenes of The Immortal and the Restless, featured in Sister Location. People believe that Clara's story from The Immortal and the Restless is indeed a somewhat reference to the story of Mrs. Afton and her husband William. This has yet to be confirmed, but some believe she died in a car accident following the death and loss of the rest of her family, and somehow her soul maybe became trapped within Ballora. How that happened, we have no idea, but you know, could be possible. Number 1, model of? Another theory, which I think makes more sense given what limited information we have on the Afton family dynamic, is that Ballora was created after Mrs. Afton's death and was simply modeled after her. Perhaps she herself was a ballerina. Some people believe that Ballora was created to be a vessel for Mrs. Afton's soul as she was dying, but because she died before the animatronic was made, she was unable to possess it. In that case, it would be perhaps some other form of remnant that possesses or haunts the animatronic ballerina we know as Ballora, granting her life.
In a 10 soap opera. One fun fact about Michael Afton, actually I don't know if this is fun or if we should actually be afraid, is that he loves the soap opera The Immortal and the Restless, a vampire parody of The Young and the Restless, and I'm assuming Twilight maybe, because of the vampires. I don't actually know where Scott stands on the franchise. Anyway, I'm not sure if we should be amused by his constant watching of the show or afraid, since him watching that show keeps his attention so bad that he doesn't hear Ennard come into his house, and he's just able to crawl in front of the TV while Michael just sits there. No running, no surprise, he just sits there watching Immortal and the Restless. People also seem to think that this is alluding to Michael's relationship with William, saying potentially that the child isn't his. I mean, that is a possibility, but what if it's true, and when William found out he killed the mother, hence why she isn't around? But that doesn't really make any sense, because if he was willing to kill the mother, he wouldn't have kept the kid. Either way, the way Michael gets distracted by a soap opera is scary. Not because it's a soap opera, because he's so distracted he doesn't hear a 7-foot-tall animatronic walking into his house. In a 9, torn identity. Michael, while not going by many names, has had many different identities over the years. While now most of us know who he is, there is a whole section of the community that thinks that Mike is Springtrap. Hell, according to the security logbook, Michael may not even be his real name. Over the years, Michael has gone by Foxy Bro, Crying Child, Purple Guy, Springtrap, and Mike Trap, but they have all been Michael Afton. We don't know why he may not remember his name, and we may not know for certain what's really going on in this series, but I can tell you that 100% he is not Springtrap, okay? Mike Trap is not a thing. Scott Cawthon confirmed it himself in reference to a MatPat theory about FNAF 6, saying to pay attention to his take on the Mike Trap versus Will Trap debate, and Matt did in fact prove to us that Mike Trap is impossible, since when Purple Guy was first introduced in FNAF 2, he had been able to drive since Fredbear's Family Diner, which Mike would 100% not have been old enough to do. Plus, if it was Mike in the Springtrap costume, he wouldn't have been able to set the souls of the other children free like he was doing, because he would have been trapped in the safe room. And at 8, mirror image. We learn from Mike's final monologue in Sister Location that Mike actually looks a lot like his father, saying the animatronics didn't recognize him at first, but then they thought that Mike was William, which explains why the animatronics are coming to kill us in the games and why the toy animatronics come after us in FNAF 2. Because we play as Mike in all those games. Because since now they have William as a killer and they're all looking for him, but instead they find us, his son, Michael Afton, which kind of throws out the whole we aren't his son thing, unless you think about the crying child as the one who isn't the son. But in that case he wouldn't say I'll put you back together, even though he could be someone else who says that, and who knows anymore. Not even MatPat, and we rely on MatPat to get these things right. At least I do. I rely on it. Notice me, senpai. Just comment in all the game theories. Tell them to check out Top 10 Gaming. Love you, MatPat. Don't copyright strike me.
Number 7. Relation to Circus Baby. A theory that some have is that Circus Baby is the younger sister to Ballora, implying that the two were made in relation to each other somehow, perhaps both being created and handmade by William Afton himself. The other theory is that Elizabeth herself had an older sister, who we haven't met yet but who also died, and whose soul was trapped or stored within Ballora somehow, preserving the other young girl. She possibly even died after Elizabeth did, and was perhaps placed there initially to keep her sister's soul company.
And at 6, he can't die. It's established in Sister Location that Mike isn't able to die via any normal means. When he got scooped and injected with Remnant, as explained via the Remnant reservoir that the scooper has, and thanks to Baby telling him he won't die after Ennard escapes his now rotting body. However, even though he is rotting, smelling disgusting, and becoming more ghastly every day, he's still kicking. Or at least he was, until Pizzeria Simulator. Now, how is this? Well, it's thanks to the remnant in his body. The remnant that he was injected with in Sister Location's final moments actually saved his life. His body was dead, but his soul was still preserved, infusing him with a form of soul metal powered by agony that can only be destroyed with fire, or overheating. And you may be thinking, if he was injected with remnant, doesn't that make his body possessed by a soul that isn't his? And while this would be true for anyone else, scooping would be incredibly painful and cause an intense amount of agonizing pain. But you also need to remember, he's with his dead family. He just found out that his sister possessed the Circus Baby animatronic, and his brother, probably fairly recently, just got killed by the Springlock failure. So he's dealing with a whole lot to say the least, and to say that he's in agony is probably an understatement. So it's very possible that he infused his soul with the remnant injected and just took control. That's not that far out there when it comes to this series. And at number 5, superpowers. While Funtime Freddy himself may not have any superpowers to think of, the voice actor Kellen Goff may have some tricks up his sleeve for his other voice acting roles. For example, he voiced Goketsu in One Punch Man and Overhaul from My Hero Academia. Thank you to several comments for pointing this out in the previous part, because I was scanning through there for more facts, because Jesus, this was hard. He also voiced Nijimura's father and Emperor Crimson in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This guy is going well, not to mention all of his video game work like Warframe, Bruce Banner from Marvel Avengers Academy, Molten Freddy from FNAF 6, a load of characters from Smite, Fiddlesticks from League of Legends, and the Bloaters from Last of Us Part 2. This guy is all over the place and killing it. I guess that makes sense for Funtime Freddy. I also guess the voice mimic ability for Funtime Freddy is well deserved. And at 4, Scooped. We all know that Mike got scooped at the end of Sister Location, if you got the right ending. However, what we probably didn't know, at least until FNAF 6, is how the scooper worked. The scooper has 4 different parts to it. The excavating arm, which is the worst name for a scooper imaginable, the remnant injector that leaves a trace line of remnant on the interior of the subject, the arm, base, and balance, and the remnant reservoir. And this blueprint is also where we learn that negating the effects of remnant requires heat. In the notes it says that when heated the metal has no observable motion, that the heated tank should be kept at a sustaining temperature that makes the metal malleable but nothing more liquid than that, because overheating might neutralize the effects permanently, as well as using the scooper too much. As the notes on the injector says, overusage/overexposure negates the effects. If Mike had scooped Ennard out of him, he might have just been able to die instead of living in agony.
Number 3. Safe for children 3 and up. Mangle's appearance is one of the most disturbing things about this animatronic. Mangle likely became a very vengeful animatronic animatronic as it is implied by the lines they have in special delivery due to the animatronic's origins in regards to how it became so disfigured compared to some of the other animatronics at Freddy's. Mangle didn't always look like they do now. Once upon a time, Mangle was a more complete and less contorted animatronic. Unfortunately, due to it being the animatronic used to entertain toddlers, it became mangled, hence the name Mangle. Every day the toddlers would destroy the animatronic, like in the drawing in Kids Cove, tearing it limb from limb, reducing it to scraps. And every night the staff at Freddy's were forced to reassemble it. One day the staff became tired of doing so and decided they would just advertise Mangle as a take apart and put together toy for toddlers to happily destroy and grotesquely reassemble each day. Have fun, kids. No wonder Mangle wants to kill you. It's likely seeking revenge due to it basically being tortured by small children on a daily basis. I wouldn't like it if children tore me apart and put me back together.
And a 2, purple guy. Remember how I mentioned earlier that people thought Mike was the killer? Well, that's because of Scott's old tricks. In the final scenes of Sister Location, where we see Mike walking along after his Ennard injection, we see him slowly get more purple and start to collapse, until eventually he is pure purple and so broken that Ennard has to evacuate faster than your Tinder date. He stood up after Baby said multiple times that he won't die, but this has caused a whole bunch of people to believe that he is actually the purple guy, that he is the killer. This is simply not the case. Yes, there are 2 purple guys, but only one of them is actually physically purple, that being Mike. Mike is actually purple, even though being green would make more sense because that's what everything rotten is colored, but whatever, Scott. William is the one and only purple guy, but he is purple because that's meant to represent a shadow in minigames that have a black background. And in Atari-style games, purple was used to indicate shadows because in a way it's more realistic in some cases. It's hard to explain. They aren't the same person, I promise. Okay, as I said earlier, Scott confirmed it himself. Finally, in at number 1, he is the brother. Hey, brother. Now I've been talking this whole time about how Michael is the big brother, and some of you may be confused. At first we thought he was the brother until the survival logbook gave us questions like, does he still talk to you, in reference to psychic friend Fredbear, and lines like the party was for you. Since the crying child's party is where he ended up dying, we thought that Mike was actually the crying child, and the promise of I will put you back together came from William, who literally put him back together as a robot. But now we're back to his brother. Why? Actually, it's because of the latest Fazbear Frights book and the similarities between the main character of Paul from one of the stories and Foxy Bro, as Matt Pat called him. If you haven't watched that theory, I highly suggest you do. Matt will explain it better than I can in this short amount of time because the script is already really damn long. But basically, the similarities prove that Mike is actually the gray-shirted big brother. But honestly, I think that the 2 kids may be the same person, but that's something I'll have to discuss on my own stuff.
Number 10. First appearance. Mangle first appears in the game Five Nights at Freddy's number 2. This might not sound like a scary fact to you, unless that is that you've actually played FNAF 2, because then you probably know what I'm talking about. FNAF 2's more open concept office with no doors to protect you to many fans has always appeared more frightening. And add in that when Mangle does get to you, they attack from above, and you've got a great nightmare scenario just waiting to infiltrate your dreams. Number 9. No eye patch. How is it possible that the loss of Foxy's iconic eye patch and Funtime Foxy's eyes makes Mangle more scary? And yet, it does. Instead of having both of their eyes or the iconic Foxy Pirate-esque eye patch and hook, Mangle is often depicted as having a single eye, with the other being seen as having fallen out and laying next to it on the ground of Kids Cove, or as having no eyeballs at all, just little pinprick pupils of white light peering out at you. Somehow the lack of eyes or eye patch covering that light makes Mangle appear even more terrifying in comparison to the other Foxy models. Number 8. 2 heads are better than 1. Some may have also noticed that Mangle comes with an extra head. The head often appears to be attached to the end of one of Mangle's limbs, and while some suspect the endoskeleton extra head belongs to another animatronic version of Chica's cupcake that belonged to Mangle when I guess they were properly assembled, others have a better theory. Being that Mangle is obviously a similar model to Foxy, some think that this was Mangle's parrot companion. The only strange thing is that Funtime Foxy, who Mangle seems to more closely resemble, did not have a parrot. Either way, it seems a little odd that this endo head exists as part of Mangle, though it does add to Mangle's mutilated and creepy appearance.
And at 7, ship? What the hell? You do realize that shipping this animatronic that contains the souls of 4 to 5 children is shipping the children, right? Shipping this animatronic with anyone is basically shipping the combined souls of 4 kids, even if you're shipping the character, because this literally was designed to have Remnant inside. The only reason any of the Funtimes exist is because Afton wanted to infuse Remnant in them, but, you know, give them the souls of children. Therefore, even if you ship the character, you now ship the children. Now, aside from that, what the damn hell is Fawn Fawn? Okay, shipping Funtime Freddy with Bon Bon? Aren't they basically one and the same at this point? Would they just be like multiple personalities inside of the Funtime Freddy animatronic? Because that would be easier to code, right? I don't know, I've never made a murder-hungry AI before. Only murder-hungry people. Why do you ship an animatronic with literally his right hand? That's weird. Even for this series.
Number 6. Exorcist. As if the Frankenstein references weren't creepy enough, Mangle is also capable of completely rotating their head around 360 degrees, so they can in effect pull an exorcist. And this also means no matter where you are, it's likely that Mangle always is able to have an eye on you. Mangle only has eyes for you. Oh, how sweet. I bet it would also be creepy to see Mangle crab walk down some stairs too, like in The Exorcist. I know I wouldn't want to see that when I wake up in the middle of the night. Number 5. Dancing. Last time we talked about how talented of a singer Ballora was, but of course being modeled after a ballerina, she is also known for being a talented dancer. She often glides and spins around her stage. She is meant to encourage children to get active and to enjoy pizza, implying that you could join Ballora for a dance-themed or ballerina-themed birthday party. Though I'm not sure how, if you rented her out, she would manage to dance, as she does apparently have very specific requirements when it comes to performing. Number 4. The Collective. Not only is it confirmed that Mangle is made up of multiple animatronic parts in the mobile game FNAF AR Special Delivery, but it's also implied that they have an internal collection of spirits residing within them. They sometimes refer to themselves as we in Special Delivery. You'll hear them say things like, "We can hear you," "We can smell you." When they speak, it also sounds like a predominantly female voice speaking, but the shadow of a lower pitched or masculine voice underneath. It sounds like two voices speaking at once, which also leads us to believe that there is more than one consciousness lurking within the mind of Mangle.
Getting close to the end in number 3, he killed his brother. This is a fairly obvious thing, but this is also one of the most horrifying things imaginable. I wouldn't be able to handle directly being the cause of a family member's death. If I was Mike and I had put my brother into the jaws of a creature he was so terrified of that he started crying so much the jaws closed and crushed his skull, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I wouldn't have been okay ever again, okay? Just the thought of this makes me want to hug my sister. Sure, her and I fight and yeah, I pick on her, but there's no way that I would have forced her into a terrifying situation unless it was for YouTube content and she was willing. But by no means would I throw her into the mouth of anything. I was going to make a joke and say aside from a lion, but I can't even joke about that. That sucks.
Number 2. Sweet and Sour. Mangle doesn't just seem to have various parts and perhaps spirits residing within them, they also seem to have multiple distinctive personalities living within them as well. One of the personalities specifically seems more sweet, curious, and fun, while another is much more horrific and malicious. While some theorize this is because there are multiple spirits or different bits of remnant combined to create Mangle, it's also possible that this could be due to two completely different sets of programs competing within the animatronic and vying for dominance. One of course would be the programming within Mangle to entertain children as a fun and harmless Freddy animatronic, while the other could be the more insidious programming included by William Afton, which ignites Mangle's need and passion for killing kids. It's possible that when Mangle became disassembled on a daily basis, these two sets of programming split, each manifesting their own separate personality within the animatronic. Number 1. Undefeatable. Well, once they are in the office, that is. In FNAF 2, Mangle will make their way to you via the vents. When they arrive at the office, however, if they manage to get in before you can ward them off, preventing them entering by disguising yourself in the Freddy head, they will then remain there for the rest of the night. There is nothing you can do but listen to their weird audio disturbances and wait to eventually be jump scared. It's inevitable. Bringing up the monitor and lowering it again while Mangle is in the office with you will trigger this jump scare, however, if you'd just rather get that whole horrific experience over with.
And 10 Yendo. Last part I mentioned the animatronic known as Yendo, who can sometimes replace Funtime Foxy in their local section. I proposed various ideas as to who this mysterious animatronic could be. Some of you didn't like that and insisted that there was only one very clear option as to who it can be. But that's not how this series has been working, guys. Nothing has really been clear. We still have people fighting over who the main killer of the series is. You can't tell me that it's obvious with this character. Nothing is set in stone. Scott made the games. actual games in the series now, so all of it can be thrown out the window whenever he decides to. But one idea I saw popping up multiple times was the idea that Yendo is Funtime Golden Freddy. Now the fact here is that Yendo exists and is basically a beefier Freddy that has yellow eyes and doesn't have any shell. And some of the community see him as an unofficial token Golden Freddy of Sister Location. Considering how popular Golden Freddy is in the series, I can understand both why this would be and how this would be possible in the game world. And at 9, Bon Bon. I touched on Bon Bon last part as well, but I didn't really give much information other than he seems to be attached and is kind of like Funtime Freddy's conscience. Bon Bon is a little blue bunny that sits on Freddy's right hand and is basically working like a calming water fountain for Freddy, calming him down and basically acting like your wingman while Freddy wants to come eat your flesh. But I said last time that he appears to be stuck, but this isn't true. He appears in the FNAF VR separated from Freddy, and at a certain point in Sister Location, he gets removed as well. Freddy has just another hand as an attachment, I guess, that he can swap between the two. Would that hurt? Can animatronics feel pain? I mean, like, I guess they're all infused with the remnant of the original animatronics, so does that make it possible for them to feel pain? Even if they contain at least like 4 or 5 souls? And it ain't temper. Now, I'm sure this goes for all animatronics who are possessed by 5 different souls powered by agony, but Funtime Freddy has a little bit of a temper, as demonstrated by his constant throwing of Bon Bon during Sister Location's Custom Night, where you won't actually see Freddy, but he will throw Bon Bon at your door. And if you don't close the correct one, Bon Bon will jump scare you because you'll get in your room because Freddy threw him. What the hell, man? Like, I thought we were cool. You were being like my protector, saying that I was like a mouse. Like, now you're doing this to me? What the hell? I mean, like, I guess technically I might be a different person in this custom night, because, like, it's not canon, and... I don't know. Freddy just... Yeet! Oh, that's so funny.
Number 7, Kids Cove. When Mangle starts out in FNAF 2, they are in Kids Cove. From there, they'll progress towards you until they arrive in the office, gearing up to try and attack from above. Now, you might think Kids Cove sounds like a nice little location in this Freddy's, but it definitely doesn't look very nice. The big open room has its own party table with what appears to be little party hats on it, with presents in the corner and decorative posters on the wall. However, it also features exposed wires, and when Mangle appears, we'll feature the animatronic in a heap in the corner. Not really the expected birthday guest I think any child would have in mind. The room also features a child's drawing of kids playing with Mangle and tearing the animatronic apart. Yikes.
And 6, Other Ships. Oh, here we go again. Welcome back to the Killing Floor! I'm your overly eccentric host, Sir Cries-a-Lot, and we're back to find our bachelor some love. We're back with our first ever part 2 with Bachelor number 1 once again. Funtime Freddy has returned! I guess last time wasn't that fun of a time, was it? Now let's find you a lovely companion. How about Funtime Foxy? I'm sure that with this Foxy Mama there'll be nothing but smiles here. But remember, don't go too fast. Even if they're swiggity swooty crave in that booty. Or how about Bretty? Are you Bretty for a good time? I'm sure Ballora won't mind a menagerie if you know what I mean, since we all know you're kinda attached to your ex. Or perhaps Flabebe! You and Baby could definitely go to the circus! And not only does she provide you with the same souls that you have inside you, but there's an additional one in the form of your killer's daughter! Doesn't that sound exciting? But wait, there's more! Literally, if you're looking for a combination of all of the above, check out Ennard. You may need to give yourself to it just because of how much they need you. This sounds ridiculous. Why do you people ship animatronics? See how weird this is? See what you're doing to me? Oh, it's not even number 5. Halfway through and at number 5, Burned. However, despite his ultimate soul power, he eventually does die during the fire in FNAF 6, also known as Pizzeria Simulator, where Henry gives his final monologue to close out the first 6 games, or the Purple Guy saga. Or at least we thought. We then see him return in the form of Glitch Trap in FNAF VR, but that's a whole other video. And literally, we did a top 10 scary Glitch Trap facts, so you should go check that out too. After this, of course. But as I described my last number, the only way he could die was through burning, which Henry makes sure of when he burns the joint to the ground with William, Baby, aka Elizabeth, Molten Freddy, aka Ennard, Lefty, containing the puppet, aka Charlotte, Henry's daughter, and you playing as Mike inside. The only question I have about this is, did we know we were gonna burn down? Obviously, we wouldn't be talking about it outright with Henry since, you know, arson is illegal, and if anyone were to stumble upon their operation, special obligations under paragraph 4 sounds better than you found an animatronic we need to burn. especially when you take into account that these animatronics are possessed and have minds of their own. They don't want to be destroyed. So it would make sense as to why they'd keep it secret, but it could be Henry keeping secrets from us as well. I personally always thought that we knew that we were gonna burn and that we had just accepted it because we'd get to see our family again and they'd be put to rest. Also because, you know, we're a walking hunk of rotting flesh that was used as a meat suit for a robotic endoskeleton, and I don't think there's a therapy for that. And at 4, Helping Hand. As I mentioned in a previous number, Bon Bon isn't fully attached to Freddy, which means that he can remove him, as demonstrated in the custom night. However, this means that Freddy has a spare hand that he attaches to himself after throwing or at least getting rid of Bon Bon. Does this mean he can have like multiple attachments for his arm? Yes. Does he? Probably not, but for all you Foddy shippers, you can have the headcanon that there's a hook Freddy attaches to his arm to make Foxy feel more comfortable. Why do I keep bringing up these ships? I think I have like some form of PTSD from that. Or some form of trauma at the very least, either from the ships or from those damn doors, okay? People in the comments of the other video were saying that they're electromagnet doors, but they would still require power for them to be open, okay? Not closed. Plus, it's still a stupid design either way. One breaker switch or fuse blows, and everything in your main office is up for grabs, okay? Including your security guard at the hands of possessed animatronic animals. And I know this doesn't relate to this list, okay? But I'm mad about it. I will always be mad about it. Until Scott explains it. I'll still probably be mad about it. Yeah, the trauma's definitely from the doors. And the ships. It's both, really.
Number 3, room for one more. Speaking of mini arenas, okay, so this isn't directly related to Ballora, but I'm not sure if the mini arenas will get their own list, and they are affiliated with her, so I figured it would make sense to include this story here. Do you want the mini arenas to get their own list? Or do you feel as though they deserve their own list? Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments below. I don't know if we actually have enough facts for them for a top 10, but the mini arenas are definitely terrifying, so I feel like they're worthy of having their own list. This story features Ballora's naughty mini arenas appearing in the 3rd Fazbear Frights book that was released earlier this year, titled 1:35 AM. In the story Room for One More, a security guard named Stanley spots them while working on his desk. Later he notices that he feels sick, and realizes the mini arenas must have been climbing inside his body while he was asleep on the job. As he attempts to head to the hospital, his body fails him and he falls to the floor. A final mini arena approaches him, asking if there's room for one more. Terrified, he screams as the mini arena climbs into his mouth. Yikes.
Ultimately, in at number 2, Pinkie Pie. I don't know what this character's name is, okay, but Bon Bon has like a twin or something. Are these guys the FNAF version of Dipper and Mabel? No matter. In FNAF VR, we're introduced to a pink version of Bon Bon in the Funtime Freddy Night Terror minigame. This little one will hide in the dressers and poke their head out every so often and jump scare you if you don't point your flashlight at them. Bon Bon does the same thing and they alternate dressers every so often. Their jump scares don't end the game, they only serve as a way to get your heart beating faster and get you panicking like the Phantom Animatronics from FNAF 3. I don't know what their name is and I don't know if they were introduced before or even if they had any relation to Funtime Freddy outside of this minigame and looking like Bon Bon, but I'm gonna call it Pinkie Pie until I know their name. I guess I could look it up. Finally, in number 1, inspiration. Now, the inspiration behind the Funtime Animatronics is very odd to me. At first, I, along with many others, including Eddie VR, thought it was just a James Charles version of the animatronics, maybe in an attempt to get a crossover going between the two, where James made himself look like Funtime Freddy. Probably not. The inspiration was more likely just to make the characters look similar to Baby. But that's what I don't understand, okay? These animatronics were designed to capture children. And statistics show that US residents are more afraid of clowns than global warming. So like, why would they approach an animatronic that looks like a clown? Sure, they have like the sound illusion discs or whatever, but if they do, what was the point of making them look like anything to begin with? If they could just make you see whatever, they could just be a walking containment cell that's covered in human feces and excrements, then there would be no way to tell, other than the smell. So like, what's the point? Plus, Baby seems to be able to shift between looking hyper-realistic and like a clown, so what's the point of making her look like a clown? Because it's scary to the people playing? I don't know for sure, but I need answers. The fact here is that the true inspiration is unknown and we need to find it.